Okay, for your watercolor leaf illustrations, you will need watercolor paper, pencil, eraser, brushes, watercolors, paper towel. You'll also need to go get a cup of water, Sharpie, black fine Sharpie from your box. You'll want to grab this leaf handout that we've given you, and also if you want to go walk around your yard, or maybe you have some house plants that you'd like to take a leaf from so that you can study the leaf and do your drawing from that. All right, let's get started then. So you also might want to grab your sketchbook and go ahead and do a few leaf illustrations before you start on your real sketch, okay? So find a blank page, and to practice your leaf sketches, study the leaf. What lines and shapes do you see? I see a lot of curved lines on this with some straight lines. Almost straight, but not exactly straight. Same with this page. I'm seeing a lot of curved, larger shapes for the outline of the leaf. So I'm going to practice a few leaves on this before I get started. So to draw a leaf, you're going to draw a big curved line that leans in, and then one that leans the other way. That's going to be your basic shape for some leaves. Now, the veins of the leaf can differ from leaf to leaf, so make sure that you study them and figure out, do they meet together like this, or do they stagger like this? Okay, if you want to draw a leaf that has some notches out of it, I like to draw the basic leaf shape first, and then you can take some notches out of it. So you can draw like a loop here, another loop here, and there. All sorts of little loops and notches. And then when you go to outline it, you just don't outline this part. You would skip around. But that way it will meet up nicely when you go to line it. So let me outline this one to show you. And there you have it. So once you've practiced several leaf shapes, let's get to our watercolor paper and do some big drawings. All right, let's start drawing on our watercolor paper. Now, when you draw on watercolor paper, you're gonna wanna make sure you draw very lightly, because if you draw this really hard on your first lines and you wanna erase something, you're gonna have a really hard time with that. So what if you draw really small? That's another thing you're gonna maybe wanna go back and fix. So make sure you draw your leaves really big. I'm gonna draw this one right here first. I'm gonna draw a couple on here, in fact. I'm gonna draw this big long one right here. And you can either draw the veins with your marker or your pencil, or you can add them in later with watercolor, and I'll show you both methods. I think for my next one, I will try maybe this kind of heart-shaped leaf, more of a tropical leaf. This is off of a ficus tree. And let's draw one that's kind of comes around, kind of like a heart. See how I'm filling my space? Make sure you take up as much of your paper as you can. Now I'm going to draw one of these leaves that has the notches out of it. This one can fit about right here. So remember, draw the outside of the leaf part first. And then we'll take our notches out. And of course we'll draw a bit of the stem too. So I'm going to do some random notches. This is not going to look exactly like our pictures. This is just going to be kind of our inspiration. Okay, now I'm going to outline it. Don't forget to erase all your pencil off. Let's go get rid of this eraser dust in the trash can. Okay, so when we start watercoloring, make sure you get all that pencil dust off. I mean the pencil marks and the pencil dust, because anything that you leave in pencil is going to be trapped under your watercolor, okay? So grab your watercolors and, let's see. I don't know, guys. This green does not look the same as this, but let's test it out. Remember that little tester paper that you got in your box. So this little scrap of paper, in case you're wondering, is how we're gonna see what the colors look like. So grab your bigger brush or a round brush if you can find one, and if you take water, dip it in your paint, let's see what it looks like. Whoa, nice green, but definitely not the color of my leaf. So what I need to do is I need to take my color and put it in these little divider sections. Here, I'm gonna take my green and I'm just gonna load water, paint, paint, water, and I'm just gonna keep adding until I have enough for kind of a base green for whichever leaf I'm painting first. So this mixture here is going to be what I paint my leaf with, right here, just this. Now, as we know, this is not the right shade of green. Let's fix it up. What can I add to make it darker and a little earthier? I think I'll try, is this brown? Try to test it out. Yes, this is brown. I'm gonna try a touch of brown, but this looks like kind of a cool brown. And remember, this does not, your first layer of watercolor should not be your darkest layer. That's looking much closer, huh? In fact, I think I'll use that. So once you find your first layer, I want you to go ahead and paint your entire leaf, starting from one end and working your way all the way across until it's all painted. Do not go back and repaint over and over and over again. Things will get weird really fast. Just paint it, let it dry. See how it looks? And if things don't look quite right, then you can repaint it then. But for now, we're just gonna paint as evenly as we can. Notice I'm only using this color. I'm not going back and getting any other colors for now. Okay, now I can move on to another leaf since my leaves are not touching. If my leaves were touching or overlapping, I'd want to make sure I waited a little bit so that wet paint doesn't collide together and make, frankly, a color I don't want. All right, so for this heart-shaped leaf, where did that go? This one here. This one has some light, brighter green and a darker green. So what I think I'll do, maybe on this one, I'm gonna modify it a little bit. And I'm gonna, instead of leaving the veins white like this, I think I'm gonna leave them, make them black, and I think I'll go ahead and draw them in. So for this green, I'm gonna mix up the lighter of the two shades of green on this one, something close to that. So now I'd like to take some green to start. What color could I use to make this a little bit, well, a little bit more yellow? I think we know the answer to that. It's yellow. Let's add some yellow and see what happens. All right, let's see that. Ooh, that's very bright. I kind of like that. It's a little, maybe a little too bright. Maybe I could tone it down so it's not so neon. And I could do that with either brown or maybe just a tinge of a color that's a warmer color, that's a little bit opposite, but not all the way opposite. I think I'm gonna go with just a little tiny, tiny drop of orange. Just a tiny, tiny drop, not a lot. This is just going to tone it down a little bit. That's looking closer. So now I'm going to go ahead and paint this entire leaf. Make sure that when you're painting your leaf, you're using your biggest brush that you have. Now remember, paint it once and don't keep going back over it. Just let it be. Okay, last one. This one is going to go with more of a similar kind of green, but more of a moss green. So I'm going to use a lot of yellow, this time maybe some brown and green. Okay, I've been mixing for a while, back and forth, back and forth. Keep adjusting, keep testing. You won't know what it looks like until you test it. So paint this one. Paint your last leaf, if you have a last leaf. Maybe you've only drawn one very large leaf. Maybe you've drawn 5 smaller size leaves, but make sure you fill your paper with leaves. Oh no, I went way out of the line. Okay, I'm going to keep painting for now, and then I'm going to show you what to do if you go way out of the line. So if you go out of the line, guys, take your clean paper towel and dab it right there to try to lift it. Don't let it get too dry to do this, but if it won't lift up very much, then we can fix it later once it's dry, but we need to wait for it to be dry. I cannot scrub this out with water right now. I'll need to wait. Okay, so now this is dry. I can tell that it's dry, not by touching it, but by looking at it. This leaf is not shiny anymore. That means it is dry. This leaf is a little shiny still. So now it's time to layer. I still have this color that I made, luckily, so I'm gonna just darken it a bit. I'm going to go for, I don't know, maybe a tinge of blue to deepen this a little bit. I'm gonna test it next to my other color. It looks a little too blue still. I'm gonna put a little bit more orange in there. Okay, I'm gonna go with this. So now I can start painting. I can paint kind of a shade my leaf a little bit. I'm gonna look at it. I don't know if you guys can see this. See how it's dark on one side? I don't know if you can tell, but I'm seeing it's very dark in the center and then kind of a little bit dark on one side. So I'm gonna pick a side here and I'm gonna just paint this side here a little bit darker. It's going to make the leaf look a little more three-dimensional. Like that. And then, if you want to, you can do a little bit in the veins. So, for our next one, it looks pretty dry by now, actually. I'm going to mix up a little bit. Let's see, it's kind of a brighter green on this one. That looks about right. So on this one, oh yeah, there's my picture. Okay, so this one I'm going to do really big painting on the veins like this. Okay, for our last leaf, this one has a lot of very fine veins in it. And this one, let's see, I want to darken this middle color up some. This one has kind of a dark outline like this. This one's painted way different. So look at all your leaves and figure out, these might all be different styles of how you paint them. And then while this is still wet here, I'm going to take the very tippy tip top of my brush and do all these little lines that come out for veins. Okay, now when you're finished with this, I want you to look at it and decide, is everything right, or do I need to do something else? Because I'm looking at this thinking, this is kind of bothering me. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to kind of add another layer here to these veins. I'm going to fix something about this leaf. Maybe I should have just painted this whole side dark. Just really look at it and decide, how can you improve this? How can you improve your painting? When you are fully pretty much finished, guys, what I want you to do is clean out your watercolors a little bit. See this orange? Kind of messy. I'm just going to take some water and my brush and kind of just brush it out. Don't leave puddles, huge puddles, sitting on your watercolor, because it'll make them kind of go soupy and sticky. So you can even dab them up a little bit and then go wash your palette lid out. So here is our completed project. I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see yours.